Hi, my name is Brandilynn Villarreal. I am a faculty member in the psychology department, and I'm also an e-learning ambassador with the Center for Teaching and Learning here at HSU. I wanted to share something that I've added to my classes while we've moved into this virtual environment because of the pandemic, and that is checking in with students specifically about their well-being during this time. This is something that I have been wanting to do for a while, but this pandemic just opened a new opportunity to try it out in one of my classes for credit, and in the other class just as an optional thing to do. The classes that I'm going to be talking about, one is Psych 311, that's Human Development. It has 47 people in the class, and the other class is Psych 240. It's Understanding Research in Psychology, and it has about 36 students in the class. So if you have fewer students in your classes, you might be able to get a little bit more in depth with the kinds of questions that you're asking. So today I want to just talk a little bit about the value of checking in with students and asking about their well-being and their health. I want to show a little bit about the research that is behind it, and then provide two examples of how I've done this in my classes in the last couple of weeks. I have provided this image here. This was just something I saw on my social media, and it really resonated with me. And I thought that it's not something that we traditionally do in academia. And it says, I literally built into my syllabus some rest and health assignments for my students. No professor ever told me this, that taking care of myself was part of my success and well-being. So now that Nicole is a professor at Brown University, this is something that she's going to be putting into her syllabus. And I thought that it was a really great idea. I wasn't, again, able to implement it. So with not being able to do some of the final in-person assignments that I would have normally done in my classes, in my Psych 311 class, I actually put in points for having some of these check-ins. And we know that student well-being is important always in terms of academic performance, but just in terms of life as well. But certainly with the pandemic, students are much more stressed out in general. And talking about and thinking about mental health is probably more important than ever during this time. So it's really the perfect time to implement maybe just a baby step into asking more about their mental health and well-being during this time. Unfortunately, many students come to college not familiar with the idea of self-care and taking care of yourself, and I especially hear these comments from my racially minoritized students. So what a great opportunity not only to be a role model in terms of saying that this is something that you should do and you should value, but also to provide some instructional capabilities. And I do provide a link to a research article for students about this type of assignment and why it's so important. There are many other benefits to just checking in a formalized way with students. And this could be, if it's public, if other people are able to see what they're saying or to view their videos, is that students can build relationships with one another. They can connect to one another. You also humanize yourself by participating in this kind of activity, and that's really important in an online environment. And this particular assignment, I think, is still academic because you have people sharing these strategies that do have some real research behind it and do actually work. So when we hear, the importance of going outside and taking a walk, or gardening, or engaging in physical activity, right? These are things that actually are academic. People have researched them. All right, let's move on to the research behind it. I think it's absolutely important that we are being transparent with our students so they know why they're doing this type of assignment, why it's beneficial for them to do it, why it's important, and they don't just perceive it as something that's non-academic or not important or busy work. So I do provide them with a link to this research article. This particular article is looking at social work students, but it definitely is relevant to all students. And it talks about how the literature has really not done a lot of research on self-care practices among social work students, and that self-care is just so vital. And there's actually an assignment provided that can serve as a model for people who want to teach their students about the importance of self-care. So what I've done is taken some of the language used in that assignment and adapted it to my assignment. Let's look at 2 examples of how I check in with students. There are many more examples, but I really liked Flipgrid as a platform, so I did use that in my Psych 311 and assigned points for that. Over 6 weeks, they're checking in every week for 2.5 points a week. And in my Psych 240 class, it's not graded, but I do have them reply to a Canvas announcement every week. I first heard about Flipgrid when I did the Course Design Institute last summer at HSU. I highly recommend that institute, and also just Flipgrid as a platform. I also used it again at the Escala Summer Institute, so it's really fun for people and it's adaptable, so you don't necessarily have to put a video of your face. You can put some other image there, so there's some variations for students who might be a little shyer. I like the platform too because it gives some videos that you can share with students. So one is a getting started video, and then there's a tips for shy students video. They also recently just elongated the number of minutes that you can record to 10 minutes, and that was as a response to the pandemic and how many people were using it. So you could certainly use Flipgrid for a number of other things, responding to discussion prompts or actually like creating certain assignments in the class. I started using Flipgrid in my classes in fall of 2019, and this was just as an introduction. So before the class even started, students created a video of themselves and told us a little bit about like where they were from and what major they were, etc. So I was able to put a name to a face and learn about the students before class, and then students could also view each other's videos so that they were learning about their classmates before the class started. So it was a nice transition for the Psych 311 because they had already used this platform and now they were using it in a different way. I use it to create this sense of community or belonging in the class, to create a social presence. And especially now when we can't see each other face to face, it's been really nice just to see them and hear their voices and to see what they've been up to during this time. It's also been nice to see that on my end, the educator login, I can see they're viewing each other's videos. And I can see that they're referring to other students' posts. So they might say, oh, you know, this other classmate has been playing Animal Crossing and I've also been doing that. I wanted to share with you what the Canvas assignment actually looks like. So here is the one for the check-in for April 13th, and it's titled Check-in and Self-Care Update. And there's a little bit of rationale before we get into the prompt, and it says, we're all experiencing severe disruption from our normal day-to-day routines, and it is difficult, recognizing how difficult it is for many not to have the human face-to-face contact and connection that we used to have. So again, this is something that we're doing every week for the next 6 weeks, is to check in with one another using Flipgrid videos. There's some instructions for how to access the Flipgrid here, and I'll show you an example of what it looks like in a minute. But here's the specific instructions. They're also provided on the Flipgrid itself. We're going to start the video by reminding us of your name or your nickname and then where you're checking in from. This is important because some students have actually left the area or moved. Some are still here. So it can change from week to week actually. And then the instructions of in 30 seconds or less, please share actions that you've taken over the last week to maintain or amplify your mental, emotional, social, physical, and or spiritual well-being. So they have a lot of different ways that they can talk about their well-being. And I tell them to please focus on 1 or 2 since it can be kind of overwhelming to try to cover all of these different types of well-being. I have an additional prompt that says, if you'd like, you can link your self-care activity to evidence-based research. I haven't seen too much of that, probably just because of the amount of time that students have, but I do here provide them with that research article from social work. I also say, again, if they don't want to record a video of their face, they can record an audio clip or they can use images or stickers. There's a variety of really cool things on the Flipgrid platform, and it's worth 2.5 points. So now I'm going to switch over to the actual Flipgrid, and this is one I've created for the entire class, and then you can add new topics. So each week has a topic here, and this is the educator login, so what the students see is slightly different. You can even add a co-pilot or another person like a TA. You can add a guest contributor. I've actually had my nieces and nephews as guests, and they've come on and say what they do to maintain their health during this time. They are 4, 8, and 9, so it was really appropriate when we were doing the session on early and middle childhood. Okay, so let's just go into one of these grids. They have one that's due today, so not everyone has participated yet. But what you'll see is, what they'll see is the prompt. It's a shortened version of what is available on Canvas. And then from the educator login, I can see all of the people who have submitted a video so far. These are very short, about 30 seconds. So just to show you what I would see on my end, I'll show you my own video here, and I'll stop it before it gets started. I've included a sticker that says psychology on there. But basically you can listen to everyone's videos, you can heart or like different videos, and then what I do for my students is I comment for every single video. So that lets them know that I viewed their video and I am providing some feedback to them. It's usually pretty short, but you can go ahead and directly email the feedback to them, and occasionally I'll get an email response back that is answering my question. You can also reply by doing a video. I have not done this. So if you'd like, you can go ahead and reply with a video, but you can certainly go through all the videos pretty quickly in this way. This is the screen that the students actually see, so it looks a little bit different. It's actually more visually appealing because you can see all of the selfies that they take for their videos at the same time. And I've seen some really cool things on here. So people often include pictures of their dogs or of art, and people build off each other. So in this particular one, I included a picture with my coffee mug from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and then now I saw that Morgan also included a picture of her Disney-inspired coffee mug. So it gets kind of fun. See that Steve here has a picture of him wearing some ears. We just had Easter, so we had other people with their bunny ears on. I've also had students include family members in their posts, getting out in nature, so showing beautiful views, various types of animals. We've seen a goat in one of our videos, so it's definitely very fun in this stressful and anxiety-producing time. If you're a little bit weary about integrating a new platform like Flipgrid right in the middle of the semester, you can use something more familiar like Canvas to also check in with students. This particular one I use for my research methods class, and I just have them reply to a Canvas announcement each week. This one, since it's not graded, it's not worth points. I don't have 100% participation like I do close to that with the Flipgrid videos, but I do have quite a few students responding. And for this one, I can also see who is subscribed to Canvas announcements, or how many people are actually viewing the announcements, which is really important because it's the main way that I communicate with students now online. You can also probably use Canvas discussion to check in. I just use an announcement because I hope that they would see this, you know, hopefully every day or every other day when they're checking in immediately to Canvas. Okay, so what I do is I check in with them. I ask them how they're doing. I ask them how they're doing in their classes. I ask them emotionally how they're doing, if they're motivated, if they're lacking motivation, something a little bit different each week. And I always end with, how can I help you? And so there's a series of questions, and I also include a meme or some kind of picture that kind of prompts some kind of conversation within this announcement. I tell them that they can check in any way they'd like to. They can use text, they can use emojis, they can write a short poem, they can do a video, a picture, a meme, etc. Most people use text. I say it's absolutely okay just to say, I'm okay, or I'm here, whatever it is to let me know that they are physically engaging with the class. Okay, and then I do follow up individually with students who did not check in through an email. These are just some examples of prompts I've used in the past couple of weeks to get the discussion going. So one is looking at how extroverts are doing during this pandemic, and likely is they're having a harder time than introverts. And I share that I am an introvert, so I'm doing okay, but I'm wondering how everyone else is doing. And for this particular one, this was the first week, I did get a lot of responses saying, I'm having a hard time, I'm in the adjustment process, and it's been really nice over time to follow up with people and to see them saying, I'm doing much better now, or whatever has changed during that time. Another one I put up is something that actually kind of relates back to class when we looked at type 1 and type 2 errors. It was in a similar matrix here, but this is referring to procrastination, work ethic that you might have during this time. So hopefully they connected with that a little bit. And then this past week, I just put up this image that says Canvas, and I use it as a little motivational thing just to say it's called Canvas for a reason, because you can do it. So I try to make it a little bit fun and engaging for them. This assignment isn't as explicitly related to mental health and well-being as the other assignment that I listed. This is more just making sure that students are still active and engaging in the course and checking in with them on a weekly basis. I do monitor the posts that students are making, just because if I post a humorous example, and they want to respond with what they think is humorous, it could actually be offensive to some people or not appropriate. So I recently did have to take down an image that someone posted of President Donald Trump looking like the Tiger King. So just be aware of that if you are trying to incorporate humor or something, that you want to be able to respect all people's preferences, their political and other preferences. These are two strategies that I use to check in with my students now that I don't see them every other day like I used to. And it's also a way for me to be intrusive. It's a way for me to try to catch students before they disengage or before they fall through the cracks. And if you have any questions or want to follow up on anything, please email me. My email is bjv7@humboldt.edu. Thank you for your time.